Greetings and welcome back to the Home Slice, my friends. I'm out here for some more chop testing fun. Got a real cool area to work in today, overlooking a waterfall, and all the plants that you see on the opposite side of the river are predominantly New Zealand native plants, and all the plants predominantly that you see on this side of the river are invasive species that were brought here from other places that are sort of taking over and crowding out native plants. So we are going to put a couple of blades to work today in order to see how well they chop said plants down. If you tuned in last time, you probably saw that I took the Kershaw Camp Axe and pitted it up against a Camp Axe by Svord. Both of those axes didn't quite perform to my particular expectations, which I was somewhat surprised about. I've always wanted to try out the Mora axe and was slightly underwhelmed by the performance that I experienced. Today we have a classic taking on a custom. Now, when I was just getting into knives, I looked at but never purchased this chopper by Kershaw Knives. This was the successor, or the predecessor I should say. This was the predecessor to Kershaw's Camp series, and it's made out of D2 tool steel, interestingly. Now, I thought that when Kershaw transitioned from this to their Camp series, that they kind of kept the design basically the same, because I hadn't looked at one up close. But this is actually quite a different design. It's not quite as heavy and thick. The grind is full flat all the way up, although the thickness behind the edge is pretty formidable. But still, you've got a sort of machete-like profile with a bit of flat grind. It's a very interesting design. It's lightweight in the hand. The grip is excellent. And man, I have to say, when I first sharpened this, I wasn't super impressed. I really struggled to get it sharp. I figured D2 has those large carbides, so I started with a silicone carbide stone, a Norton Crystalline, and sort of refined the edge on that, and then went on to ceramics. But for some reason, I still really struggled to get this thing to have as much bite as I wanted. And at that point, I was like, well, this is not gonna be a super nice thing to use. But out here, feeling the balance of this thing and feeling the edge, I'm actually quite excited to try this thing out. I've always wanted to, and it's a really cool design. I would say the balance of the swing of it feels the best of almost any of the blades that I have used. It's got a really good grip and rake and forward weight distribution and balance. It all just feels really good on this. It feels like my K-Bar Becker, where you got a lot of wrist snap and a really secure grip, but it feels like you've got a little bit more length, but it doesn't feel that much heavier, so it feels quick and nimble. It'll be really interesting to see how this Kershaw Camp knife in D2 tool steel from back in the day does. And in looking through all the blades I have available right now, at the time that I received this, and at the time that I'm filming this, I was like, man, we need to find a worthy blade to take this old school Kershaw on and give it a run for its money. And my friend Andrew happened to send along this bad boy. This is a custom design BladeSports style chopper with a high performance heat treatment, very thick, and yet very, very thin behind the edge. My friend Andrew actually designed this when he was living in South Africa, and then he had a custom maker, a bladesmith, actually produce this sort of BladeSports long chopper cleaver style of blade with aggressive ergonomics. So today we've got some high hardness 5160 against some high carbon D2 tool steel, and we'll get into it and see which of these guys ends up chopping the best. We'll start with the Kershaw.
When some whistling wind, let me listen in. I chased you through these trees. tasted your tender breeze. You're on the tip of my tongue, but we've only begun. Tracked your trail to these winsome woods, where I finally found and understood. Oh, you've been filling my lungs. Oh, you've been hunting me down. I thought you were the wild one, my taming begun. You wake me in the morning, safety is becoming mine. Love is never fleeing, the same in every season.
Well, just done quite a bit of work with this Kershaw, and I figured sometimes I give my thoughts a week later and I lose the really in the moment observations, and I think I'd like to move in these videos toward giving the observations when they're fresh. So, hour and a half of work with this guy so far, and overall I would say I actually like it. I actually like it significantly more than I anticipated. Now I'm going to start with pros and then move to cons to sort of give my impressions of this. Now, what this operates like, I don't know what the designer was shooting for at the time. I don't know what other blades were on the market to compete with, or what market they were sort of looking at. But what I can tell you is that this acts like everything a machete should be. Like a short, quick machete. It's got just enough thickness, just enough width, and this grippy rubber handle absorbs shock and keeps it from kind of pinging, or the force you put into the blow from going into vibrations like ding, which can happen if your angle's off at all with the machete, or if a machete is just not quite balanced and designed exactly efficiently. So this reminds me of a machete. You can kind of plow your way straight through a tree just like a machete. It doesn't really want to bite deep and chip out big V's like an axe. But to be honest, the speed and the swing of this thing are actually nearly perfect. The handle is really good, really, really good. The heft of it is just about right, where you can get it to snap quickly, but you can also really lean into some heavier chopping. So design-wise, this thing is brilliant. I kind of wish that Kershaw would bring it back and do a real flat grind to like an edge that's like 25 thousandths of an inch, rather than this edge, which is probably like 45 thousandths of an inch. And then this thing would be a monster, especially if you put it in a steel that's really like a homogeneous carbon steel, such as ADCR V2 or something like that. But overall, I really like this. That's the pros: handle, shape, speed, balance, ergonomics, shock dampening. Those are all the pros. The con to this Kershaw chopper is that the penetration is not very good. It seems like it usually only bites in about 10 millimeters or so. And so each chip you can get out is limited in size. And so this thing was quite miserable to chop down because I had to get through quite a large tree. The one pro that I didn't mention, which I will say, is that because of the thickness of the edge and the convexity of this edge, when you hit below a cut that you've made, it ejects chips very, very, very well, as long as you're aimed perfectly. So every time you chop in, if you hit right at that sweet spot to connect those two lines, it will eject chips like a champ. And I really enjoyed that about this versus other machetes that I've used. But alas, the con is that it is so thick behind the edge that it doesn't sink very deep. It didn't reach a very high level of sharpness, and so it isn't terribly efficient for big stuff. It was actually quite pleasing for all small stuff, probably up to about 3 inches, which is kind of the general rule, right? I keep coming back to that. Fast blades, lightweight blades kind of plateau somewhere around there most of the time, where your heavier and well-profiled edges can go for a little bit thicker things. If I look at the way that the D2 held up, there's definitely a few larger chips, but overall it was quite functional. I was actually impressed by how well it started out and the sharpness to start with. And this first hour and a half has been a fairly pleasant experience. I'm pretty sure it's not going to hold an edge very well compared to the 5160 chopper that we've got going. Maybe I'll have to best test after so that we can do a direct comparison. Anyway, I'm done with this guy, and I figured it's going to be really hard. I'm trying to consolidate these things to these big piles so that the land is more clear and you can see the waterfall. But I figure it's going to be pretty hard to carry this tree as a whole, although I've been known to do dumb things like that. So I'm going to switch here and go grab the 5160 custom chopper, and we'll piece this thing up so that I can move it, and we'll get an initial observation on how it compares on the same tree. All right, here we go.
Oh, you've been filling my lungs. You've been hunting me down. I thought you were the wild one. My thinking gone.
That is not a right.
You wake me in the morning. Safety is becoming my love is never fleeing, the same in every season. Not alone. Wake me in the morning. Your safety is becoming my love is never fleeing, the same in every season. You are my home. You are my home. You are my You're on the tip of my tongue, but we've only begun.
Well, I've cleared a big old pile here, and there's another pile over here, and up the hill we've got another one. And yeah, I think I'm gonna call it a day. But very, very impressive performance by Andrew's BladeSports style chopper. I have to say the 5160 held up amazing. I can't see a single nick. I couldn't feel a significant drop in performance over the hour and a half of using it. It just continued to bite in so deep. So good job to the bladesmith who made this, and good job, Andrew, with your design. Man, this thing is a beast. I don't know with this blade length, how much better you could get in terms of chop penetration and efficiency of swing. And I guess that goes to show that BladeSports is really optimized for this sort of thing, for chop penetration, accuracy, speed, and a balance between penetration ability and ejecting the ability to eject the chips when you cut. There's a real slight convex to this, and I would say that the chipping ability was like medium high. I don't think it was the highest that I have experienced. Like, I think my Husqvarna axe, of course that's bigger and a lot heavier, but it has slightly better chipping ability. I think the balance of the chipping versus penetrating ability of the Kukri was quite good. Definitely on par with this. Like, I wouldn't know just from this test and this time which one of them would win if they went head to head. Anyway, this chopper was fast. It packs a punch. It can go through small stuff, medium stuff, and make good progress for its size through really large stuff. I had no problems with the grip whatsoever. That's well designed. Good job, Andrew, on that. So what is my final call? Kershaw D2 chopper versus BladeSports style custom 5160 chopper. Spider crawling around on it. Well, guys, I think we have to give it to the BladeSports style chopper. It definitely felled that large tree much more quickly. And while the Kershaw has a great balance and speed, I think the edge geometry on this chopper is way more optimized for the sort of work that I'm doing. But hey, I'm very impressed. I actually really like this guy. I kind of wish that somebody would bring back this kind of design, but in a little bit more of a modernized and thinned out edge sort of package. Anyway, here at the end of all things, the BladeSports style chopper designed by Andrew Van will be going on in the next round to face off against the Kershaw Camp axe, and we'll see which one of those wins this portable chopper, like pack chopper versus pack axe tournament. Thanks for tuning in. If you want to see the last episode where the Sword and more axes duked it out, I'll put that on screen now. For the rest of you, I'll say peace out from the home slice. You guys have a good day. Bye.